launched with
test
astronauts
flight,
John
and Boeing
Young
is
and
working
Robert
towards
Crippen, and it
certification.
launched
To do
April
that,
12th
there are a
of
total of
1981.
87 flight test objectives and
Starliner,
more
Houston, your
operational
soup time
capability
Bravo is
checkout. So take a
repowered.
look
It looks
at
good. Please close your visors. Column closed.
You saw a video there of Demo 2, May 2020, Doug Hurley, Bob Behnken.
And then, of course, today's NASA's and Boeing's Crew Flight Test with Butch Williams and Butch Wilmore. And Suni Williams.
You know, Mike, 12 minutes and 15 seconds to go. How are you feeling?
I am excited. I'm grateful to ULA and Boeing and NASA team that we are sharing this historic moment together. Go Starliner.
Yeah, our hearts and well wishes are with Butch and Suni as they make history testing what is poised to be the second commercial crew vehicle that is certified to ferry people to and from the International Space Station. So with 11 minutes and 46 seconds to go, let's send it back over to ULA's Dylan Rice and Boeing's Lauren Brennicke to walk us through the final moments of today's launch countdown. Let's do it, guys.
Let's do it, Megan. We just heard the Starliner readiness poll is a go. We know the crew's visors are down now, so we are moving along smoothly into the final 11 minutes and 30 seconds of this countdown. This is an instantaneous launch window today, which means that we will launch when the orbital path for the ISS aligns with the Space Coast. Once we get into orbit, Starliner will be working to catch up with the space station, eventually reaching speeds of more than 17,500 miles per hour. It'll take about 25 hours or so to get there. And we are going to be watching here any minute.
Minus 11 minutes.
For the crew access arm.
Control, so the crew access arm for launch. Roger.
Right on cue. Crew access arm about to start moving away from the spacecraft. And Dylan, we will watch it move very slowly today, but it could move much faster if needed.
That's right, Lauren. It takes about 2 minutes to rotate the 120 degrees back away from Starliner to its stowed position and latched position on the crew access tower. Here we go. But we could, in the event of an emergency, redeploy it in less than 15 seconds.
It's amazing that it can do that. We hope to not have to ever see that happen. After liftoff today, Brandy and Jim will continue commentary from Houston through ascent, spacecraft separation, and the orbital insertion burn. We will have the shot of Butch and Suni inside Starliner until the moment of launch, and then we will get it again when we get to the ISS.
Minus 10 minutes. Flight verify CST 100 on internal power. Verified. Starliner, configure ordnance for launch.
Touch and one.
All right, the spacecraft is running completely on its own now. And they are configuring ordnance for launch. That means the devices that initiate our separation events are ready to support both nominal and contingency operations that happen or could happen during ascent.
So, Lauren, we're just about 2.5 minutes now away from our terminal count status check. The terminal count status check is the final report from each operator indicating that their system, whether it be a ground control system or a launch vehicle system, is ready to execute the final 4 minutes of the countdown to launching the rocket. At this point, if there were an issue, the anomaly team would be discussing it, but nothing like that has happened right now. All's quiet. I am expecting to hear all members of the team report go when pulled by Chief Launch Conductor Doug Lebo.
And we're actually hearing on a side channel that they are preparing for the launch vehicle systems poll. This is the long one. A lot of people view this as their favorite poll. It's kind of fun to listen to them list off each system, and then that team will give a final go or no go for launch. And we will be able to watch cameras on the rocket today, and live telemetry feeding back will provide a real-time look at the spacecraft model when video isn't possible during the ascent as it moves through the dynamic phases.
Minus 8 minutes.
Under 8 minutes before Butch and Suni head back to a place they consider home. Both of them have spent 2 different stints of about 6 months on the International Space Station. and they are thrilled to be going back for a third time. Suni told me she even cried the last time she left the space station because she didn't know if she would ever go back. So this flight is a dream for her.
LC arm control.
Go ahead.
Drew axis arms stowed for launch.
Roger. LC switch to ready position. All steps are complete prior to status check.
Let's listen in to Chief Launch Conductor Doug Lebo conduct that final terminal count status check as we prepare for launch.
L-minus 7 minutes.
Status check to proceed with terminal count. Atlas systems, propulsion,
Go.
hydraulics,
Go.
pneumatics,
Go.
LO2,
Go.
water,
Go.
Centaur systems, propulsion,
Go.
pneumatics,
Go.
LO2,
Go.
LH2,
Go.
has gas,
Go.
electrical systems, airborne,
Go.
ground,
Go.
facility,
Go.
RFFTS,
Go.
flight control,
Go.
GCQ,
Go.
op support,
Go.
comm,
Go.
umbilicals,
Go.
arm control,
Go.
ECS,
Go.
redline monitor,
Go.
quality,
Go.
op safety manager,
Go.
ULA safety officer,
Go.
vehicle system engineer,
Go.
anomaly chief,
Go.
range coordinator,
Clear to proceed.
flight director,
Houston flight is go.
Starliner,
Starliner, go.
launch director,
You have permission to launch.
proceeding with the count. ALC, verify T0 is set for 14:52:15 Zulu.
Verified.
Starliner, net is clear.
Thank you, LC. For everybody listening, just a thought. Sonny and I, as we were traveling to the pad, we saw many American flags, and many of you were waving flags at us. And then as we reached the pad, we look up, and of course there's that American flag on the side of the white room, also one on the side of the rocket itself. And we know that that represents unity and resilience and unified efforts for the common good. And that's what Sonny and I have witnessed this last month. Each of you displaying what this nation's forefathers envisioned, a people committed to God, family, and country, a people who use their gifts and talents for the common good, and are passionate and tough. And we all know that when the going gets tough, and it often does, the tough get going. And you have. And Sonny and I are honored to share this dream of spaceflight with each and every one of you. So with that, LC, let's get going. Now let's put some fire in this rocket, and let's push it to the heavens where all these tough Americans have prepared it to be.
Let's go, Calypso. Take us to space and back.
LC flight, Starliner configured for terminal count.
On my mark,
Roger.
the time will be T-minus 4 minutes and counting. 3, 2, 1, mark.
Clocks have
3:55.
resumed for
Ground
on-time
power is enabled.
liftoff.
Just beautiful words from Butch there. No better example of unity on this planet than what happens at the International Space Station, where Butch and Suni are headed in just 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
3:30.
Atlas hydraulics at flight fresh.
Atlas boosters hydraulic steering systems now pressurized for launch.
Starliner's LAS prop valves are configured for launch, the propulsion valves that need to be open in the case of an abort from the pad.
3 minutes.
Pressurizing Atlas tanks. Securing LO2 topping.
250. FTS internal.
Flight software is in ascent mode. It is now set for the uphill climb.
Vehicle internal. 155. Launch sequencer start. 150.
Securing Centaur LH2.
Securing Centaur LO2.
Vehicle is now transferred to its onboard batteries, and topping is
140.
completed.
Launch enabled. 137. FTS armed. 120. OCU's armed. SCS count started. EDS ascent.
Starliner, last arm to auto.
Last arm auto.
Roger.
That call meaning if the emergency detection system on Atlas detects something.
Rock report range status.
Range green. 54. POP started.
It will trigger the launch abort system on Starliner and fire automatically. If that happened, the spacecraft would push itself away from the rocket a mile up and a mile out.
Atlas at flight press.
30. Centaur at flight press. 25.
Status check. Go Atlas. Go Centaur. Go Starliner. Godspeed, Butch and Sunny.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff of Starliner and Atlas V, carrying 2 American heroes, drawing a line to the stars for all of us.
Commander Butch Wilmore there, calling down to Mission Control here in Houston that the spacecraft has begun rolling into the right attitude for its ascent, and the Guidance, Navigation, and Control Officer here in the room seeing good data on that.
Starliner passing through max Q, or the point of maximum dynamic pressure where the forces of air friction are highest, which in Sunny will shortly be passing through Mach 1, where the speed of sound.
You got a good throttle up.
Starliner and Atlas looking good with speeds and attitude increasing as expected. Coming up in less than 20 seconds, the solid rocket boosters will run out of fuel and burn out.
Good SRB burnout.
Good SRB.
Now that the fuel in the solid rocket boosters has been depleted, the Atlas main booster stage will be continuing its burn for about the next 3 minutes.
Good handle.
Good handle.
That call, good handle, from Capcom Joshua Kutrik, indicating that the crew now has the ability to initiate an abort manually if needed. All looking good so far. Now 2 minutes into Starliner's flight and coming up on the solid rocket booster jettison at the 2 minute and 40-second mark.
CLG and net, good trajectory.
CLG.
The solid rocket boosters have now been jettisoned after seeing Starliner through its first 90 seconds of flight. Team on the ground here confirming that it was a good jettison and that the vehicle's trajectory continues to look good now 3 minutes into today's flight.
Atlas booster now throttling back to limit the G-forces on Butch and Suni, trying to limit that to around 3.5 times the force of gravity you would feel while on the ground.
Staging.
Here in the ground.
Decals open. You have sublimator act.
Decal sub act. Decal. Great act.
Team on the ground reporting that they saw the ascent cover on top of Starliner that's been protecting the spacecraft's docking system through its climb into orbit. They saw that jettison as planned.
Staging was good. You have good control.
And now the second stage's 2 Centaur engines have ignited to continue pushing Starliner into space, fueled by liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. The next milestone that we'll be watching for is the aeroskirt jettison.
Starliner, you had good booster performance. You're up to plus 31.
Plus 31.
Atlas Control reporting booster performance offset of 31 seconds of ISP, or specific impulse, relative to its design baseline of around 450.
All continuing to perform well, almost 7 minutes into today's flight.
Good Centaur.
Good Centaur.
Capcom Joshua Kutrick continuing to pass good news up to Starliner's crew. That last one reporting that the Centaur upper stage remains in good condition and is performing well, pushing them into orbit.
St. John's open.
St. John's.
Starliner is now entering its first guided abort range, where Starliner would direct itself towards a specific location in the event of abort. In this case, just off the coast of St. John's, the capital of the Canadian province of Newfoundland, Labrador.
Starliner MECO converged 11:5 to 11:52. Good perf, you're at 34 to 36 seconds.
11:52, 34 seconds.
That call letting the crew know that the main engine cutoff, MECO, should happen just about on time, about 12 minutes into today's flight. Another good indication that Starliner's ascent is taking along exactly as expected. Main engine cutoff is a major milestone marking Starliner's arrival on orbit. Still got about 2.5 minutes until we get to that, with the spacecraft continuing to perform well, make its way towards orbit.
No action, Starliner on the LCL. That's just the system coming up into controlling mode.
Outstanding. No action.
Once the main engine's cut off, the next step will be the launch vehicle separation. That's set to occur just short of 15 minutes after launch, when Starliner will separate from the rocket and fly free in space for the first time. Flight Dynamics officer reporting that at this point, Starliner could potentially make an abort landing off the coast of Ireland.
Good cooling.
And they're, again, all continuing well, so we're not expecting to need that abort.
As Starliner is rapidly approaching orbital velocity, this abort region is only available for just over 1 minute, where Starliner would just continue up to orbit after that.
.30 seconds to MECO.
Just 30 seconds to go. Now until main engine cutoff, marking Starliner's arrival on orbit.
Nominal MECO, Starliner.
Nominal MECO.
And with that nominal MECO call, that's main engine cutoff. We've got good energy, meaning a good velocity for continuing to orbit, and a good plane, meaning Starliner's trajectory is aligned with the International Space Station for rendezvous tomorrow.
And with that, Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams returned to orbit. Individually, they are both extremely experienced astronauts.
14:5 to 14:52.
14:52.
They're both very experienced astronauts with a combined total of 489 days in space between them. Starliner is also the third spacecraft that they've launched in. Both have traveled to the International Space Station via space shuttles and Soyuz and are now well on their way to repeating the journey via Starliner. It's also worth noting that Williams' role as pilot marks the first time that a woman has crewed a flight test of an orbital spacecraft.
Just a few seconds ago, you heard Capcom Joshua Kutrick calling up to Butch and Suni. With the expected time, Starliner will separate from Centaur at about 14 minutes, 52 seconds into flight, just under 2 minutes from now, or 1 minute from now.
That is actually the last major milestone for Starliner's ascent. All the hard work is done, but we need for Starliner to be flying on its own before it can begin heading towards the International Space Station. There's a slight pause in the action here while Centaur repressurizes and does some attitude control. We'll get into the right orientation to send Centaur on its way and then jettison it and move into the right orientation for the orbital insertion burn, which will come about 31 minutes into flight.
No action on the cabin temp Starliner.
No action.
And about 10 seconds until an expected launch vehicle separation.
LV-SEP confirmed.
Good LV-SEP.
And now that Starliner has separated from this Centaur upper stage, we have a big thank you to our partners at ULA, providing Butch and Suni a smooth ride to space.
That is not the end of today's orbit activity, though. The team will now be getting ready for the orbital insertion burn, which comes 31 minutes after flight. So that's still about 15 minutes away now. Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore will be getting their tablets out and doing a few other activities to get Starliner ready for that. And that will be one of the, that will be the first in a series of burns that will set Starliner on its way to the International Space Station. Once again, Starliner with astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams on board launched from Florida, the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Launch Pad 41 at 9:52 a.m. Central, 10:52 a.m. Eastern today, and they have now
Starliner,
made it into orbit.
Your nominal TDRS show MDL is active. You have good targeting for OI.
Good targeting.
With the call for good targeting and information about Starliner's TDRS schedule being good, means that we've got good communication with the ground. TDRS is the tracking and relay data satellites that Starliner uses to talk to the ground, and the flight controllers on the ground are seeing the Dynamic.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if you could relay a message to our brethren at ULA.
We're all listening. Go ahead.
Yeah, they've been a member of the family for a long time, but now it's official, and we want to welcome them to human spaceflight.
We all copy all and really appreciate the words.
And Houston Starliner, we are on the tablets and in insertion monitor.
Copy tablets, we're with you, insertion monitor.
So the crew have their tablets out, so no longer using the paper procedures now that the vehicle has stopped moving so quickly. So there's a handful of things that the crew's going to do now, mostly just prepare the inside of the cockpit so they are looking at the right data to prepare for the upcoming orbital insertion burn. The vehicle itself has done a few things recently. Started to power on the solar arrays on the back of Starliner and turning off several of the thrusters that are no longer needed at this phase of flight. Upcoming in about 4 minutes, Starliner is going to start to orient itself in the direction it needs to do the orbital insertion burn. And the crew inside the vehicle will be turning the wireless access point on and allow them to stream some of the data from the spacecraft onto their procedure tablets.
And Houston Starliner, last arm is off. Backup control switches, enable 1 on, enable 2 off. SMRCS is the mode.
We copy off. Enable 1 is on. Enable 2 is off. SMRCS, you're in a good config.
Good config.
Your EXDV targets are on board and good.
Good EXDV.
Things will be pretty quiet as Starliner gets into position for the orbital insertion burn. That's still about 10 minutes away. Starliner is actually designed to be pretty autonomous and, in fact, docked with the space station on its last trip around without the help of any crew on board. But we do still want to know that if needed, Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams could take control and manually abort the spacecraft's approach to the station if they needed to. So to prove that, one of the few things on their agenda after they reach orbit will be to perform a test of the manual piloting mode.
This test will involve first pointing Starliner's nose towards the Earth so that its communication antenna on the back of the service module is pointed at the satellites, the teeter satellites that allow it to communicate with the team on the ground. They'll then move Starliner so that its solar arrays are pointed at the sun, showing they could charge Starliner's internal batteries as needed. And they'll follow that up with a demonstration of the star trackers, one of the ways that Starliner determines where it is in space, pointing Starliner away from Earth so that the system, the Vesta system, can get a good look at the stars.
The next step will be for the crew to manually speed Starliner up and then slow back down, which will slightly raise and then lower their orbit and prove that they can manually break away from the orbit that the space station is in if they needed to. At that point, they can move on to the last
Starliner,
items of the
still no
test.
action on your cabin temp. You're in a good config. It's 74 degrees in there. And that's just due to that T2 sensor sitting beside the light. So we're actually going to inhibit that particular sensor. We'll let you know when we bring it back online.
Okay, great. Looks like we're on our way to thrust alarm.
Concur.
Josh Kutrick calling up that the crew can ignore some alarms they're seeing on the temperatures inside Starliner. That's just a result of one of the sensors being next to a light that's causing it to show higher than it actually is. But it sounds like the crew are pretty comfortable and are getting into place for that orbital insertion. As I was saying, after they have manually broken away from the orbit of, proven that they can manually break away from the orbit of the space station, they are going to move on to the last items of their test for tonight. That's manually moving Starliner into the right orientation for re-entering the atmosphere, and then moving back into the attitude that will let them soak up some sun with the solar arrays and try a different method of manually charging the spacecraft's batteries. But again, once that all has to wait until after the orbital insertion burn. This is, again, the first of several burns that will put Starliner on its way to the International Space Station. We've still got about 6.5 minutes until we fire up the engines for that burn.
Starliner, we did not see the hand controller deflection. Just wanted to know if you did that yet.
No, we'll get it now.
All good.
Team here on the ground seeing that everything is looking like it's in the right configuration for the orbital insertion burn. Now less than 5 minutes away. Starliner is currently about 102 miles above the Mediterranean Sea, heading southeast over India in the next few minutes.
Starliner, good config for the OI burn.
Good config for OI.
And good config from the OI burn. Crew and ground control is noting that Starliner is pointed in the direction it needs to for the OI burn. It should also be about the time that the crew are using their tablets for their procedures, also charging them, keeping them topped up for the rest of the rendezvous.
We unfortunately won't have a view of Williams and Wilmore as they work through this procedure. Although we had a view of them from inside the cabin on the ground, Starliner isn't able to send that view to us again until it gets to the International Space Station. So you'll be seeing this screen quite a bit as Starliner was getting into the right position for the burn. And actually just now you can see some of the engines firing that help it steer and move around in space. And you can also see what attitude it's in at any given time. Lots of good information on this screen.
It is. A lot of this information actually directly mimics the views that the crew is seeing, especially the one in the upper left-hand panel. That is an exact copy of the display the crew is using for their attitude directional indicator. It also covers what mode their translational hand controller and the translational pointing is in. On the left side, on the right side, the pointing guidance, which tells the Starliner in automated mode which direction to point, or when in manual mode, which direction the crew needs to move the vehicle, like we're going to do in some of the manual piloting maneuvers. And following back up a little bit on the camera conversation, there is a planned upgrade of the Mustang system that we should see on our PCM-1 mission that will include live feeds from inside the cockpit.
And the Mustang system is the cameras that we were seeing views from earlier.
That's correct. There's a handful of cameras around the inside of Starliner. We often see the one from kind of beneath Butch and Suni. That's given one of the better views without being directly right in their face while they're inside the cockpit during pre-launch. But once they're in orbit, they've gotten out of their seats a little bit, and we should be able to see a little bit more around the cabin.
We will, though, as you've already heard, continue to hear regular audio updates from the crew. Everything going well now that Starliner is just under 30 minutes into today's flight. We've got about a minute and a half left to go into that orbital insertion burn. That will be kind of the final end cap, really, to today's ascent, which again took place at 10:52 a.m. Eastern when Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams launched inside the first Starliner to carry crew members on board from the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Launch Pad 41. They made it to orbit about 14 minutes later, and now we are just again waiting for this first of a series of burns that will set Starliner on its way to a rendezvous with the International Space Station that is scheduled to take place at 12:15 p.m. Eastern, 11:15 a.m. Central tomorrow.
And we're coming up at about 40 seconds till the orbital insertion burn. This burn is going to take Starliner out of its slightly suborbital trajectory and push it up to an altitude that will allow us to catch up with ISS for a rendezvous later tomorrow.
"15 seconds left to go, and once again, you'll be able to see those engines firing on this digital screen here that show when the burn has started.
2 seconds. And flight controllers here in Houston, seeing 4 good OMACs, good burn.
We take a look. That was a good OI burn. You're maneuvering to NavCal 1.
Good OI burn, going to NavCal 1.
And with that call up, both crew and flight controllers agreeing that that was a good OI burn. I'm looking at the trajectory plot here in Mission Control. I see our trajectory pointing us directly up to the altitude we need to go to for the next burn. Right now, Starliner is moving into NavCal mode, or in NavCal attitude. That's going to be the first of several positions that Starliner, directions that Starliner points itself to track some of the stars from the Starliner and update the position inside of the position orientation of Starliner inside of its guidance, navigation, and control algorithms.
And of course, you're seeing lots of happy faces and cheers here there in Florida. Everybody glad to see Starliner safely in orbit with Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams in tow, sending it on its way to the International Space Station for docking tomorrow at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Once again, Starliner safely on orbit, has conducted a good orbital insertion burn, and is on its way.
Starliner, Houston.
Go ahead, Starliner, Houston.
Yeah, you do have good cooling. The sublimator is working. We are watching it, though, because the water